Being a gay man of 22 years old in New York City is an experience for anybody. It's learning who you are, it's learning what the community is. And this particular time that I was 22 in New York City was the spring of 1983. And I was doing exciting stuff. I was actually a producer of a TV show at the time on Manhattan Cable that was dedicated to exploring gay life and lesbian life in New York City. And it was called Our Time. And the most exciting thing about it is that the host was a man named Vito Russo. Vito Russo was a renowned activist and the author of a seminal book called The Celluloid Closet. The job that I had was really an internship, which meant that every 2 weeks I got $45 pay. And that $45 was only to cover my lunch and the subway. And I'd been doing this for a while because I loved it, but I'd gotten to the point where I had to jump subway turnstiles because I did not have enough money in my pocket. And I finally went to Vito one day and I said, I love you, I love this job, it's killing me. And so Vito said, oh, I'm really sorry, I knew that you were struggling. Listen, why don't you do what I did when I was working on the Celluloid Closet, when I was writing the book and I didn't have any money, I took a job and I could probably get you a job there too. And I said, where? He said, the St. Mark's Baths. With the recommendation of Vito, I was told to call upon the manager of the St. Mark's Baths one night, and he took a look at me, and he probably had asked me if I'd ever been in a bathhouse before. I said, no. And he found that charming. He said, okay, you can be a towel boy. A towel boy is somebody who stands at the head of the stairs, which is the entrance to all the little rooms where you can rent for a night or a few hours. On one arm, like this, I'm holding a nice, clean white towel, just laundered. And in this hand, I'm holding a cup of lubrication, lube. And this is how I greet the men who come upstairs from the registration at the St. Mark's Baths. What they didn't see is after they had finished doing their business and I had to clean each room, not as elegant. So I did that for one night, and I guess my genteel, small town sensibilities were shaken up a little bit. And so the next night I went back to my manager and I said, I really like it here, but I don't know if I can take it being a towel boy again. And I guess he had taken a shine to me because he said, I'm going to put you down in registration. I thought, oh, that's great. I don't have to clean up, dirty sheets anymore or hand out lube. I was very happy. It was the spring of 1983 and AIDS was just beginning to become a very mainstream gay thing. And I remember seeing a poster that appeared on the streets of New York City saying, First AIDS Candlelight Vigil. And so the Candlelight Vigil poster said, meet at Christopher Street, and we're going to march downtown to a government building. I went with a couple of friends, and we felt, really engaged. We felt like we were doing something. We were taking a stand. I just felt really swept up in it, and I felt like I wanted to do something, and I wanted to help make a change. And then the event finished, and I was standing around, and for some reason I didn't have a watch with me. And I called out to the crowd around me, hey, does anybody know what time it is? I have to get back to my job at the baths. Silence. People looked at me and they scowled. And somebody said, you work at the baths? That's where AIDS is caused. That's where the epidemic got started. It was the early days of the epidemic, and we were going on fear and panic and, a certain amount of judgmentalism, because I was suddenly this aware person. I thought, oh my God, that's right. I'm doing something that is anathema to helping stop this epidemic. I'm working somewhere which is sort of ground zero for AIDS, which I was wrong about, but as I said, that was my naivety at the time. And so I made it a point that I was not going to work there again. I probably worked at the Baths for about 3 months at the most. I was getting a summer job out on Fire Island. So I used that as the sort of smoke screen for leaving the job because I was getting this job as the co-editor of the Fire Island News at the time. And so I told him that I just had this other job, and he knew that I was a writer, and so he wished me well. And I said, well, I might come back in the fall. I was trying to placate him. He said, no, don't worry about it. He said, I know where your career is going, and I know that this isn't where it is. So, I'm glad that you worked with us. When people asked me to recount my life as an AIDS activist and as a gay activist, as a gay journalist, as a fighter, and people are usually impressed. And I have to remind them that we all start being naive and not knowing where to go, and things just happen. And sometimes they happen accidentally, but none of it was planned. I just remained open to what could happen, and I ended up being rewarded for it by being involved with such amazing, brave people who took stands, and were really quite amazing in their bravery and in their vision. And I'm glad to be able to call them comrades.